Alright, so this is Mr. Burkowski. He's my neighbor. How was your family kept? How did you guys keep warm when you were a child?
Well, actually a wood-burning stove.
Wood-burning stove?
Yes.
Was your family sort of wealthy in a way?
Not at all.
No? Did you have heat energy delivered to your home?
No. Well, electricity, but not actually heat.
Okay, was the only source of energy used for heat in your childhood close to what we have today?
Well, gas was used, but we did not have gas in our house.
What did your family use for lighting?
Electricity.
Did you use like light bulbs?
Light bulbs, yes.
Okay. What did your town use for public transportation?
Buses.
Did your family have its own vehicle or any private transportation?
No. Just bicycles.
Just bicycles. What energy fuel did you use to cook your food with?
Wood.
Did your family grow your own food or did you buy packaged food?
Mostly we grow our own food.
Okay. How did you guys contain milk, if you had milk?
Contain it.
Contain. Did you like keep it in a fridge or?
Well, we did not have a refrigerator.
Okay, so did you just keep it?
Just use it up as we had it, mostly.
Okay. Did you use specific soaps to wash your clothes with?
Bar soap, I really don't know the name of it.
Oh, okay. Was it? Did you use just like? Was it like a certain kind of? Was it a different soap than what you used to wash your hands with, or was it like a? Did you use the same kind to wash everything else?
What, the same kind?
It's the same. Okay. Was it different from the same? Okay, never mind. Were the clothes that you were made of? Were they very well made? Were they like handmade, or did you buy them from a?
Well, you bought them.
Bought them. Okay. How did you keep yourself entertained?
Reading books and listen to the radio.
What did your family do for amusement?
Not much. Mostly working.
Yeah. What were you most grateful to have in your childhood?
Food.
Food. What do you miss most of all?
Well, I guess my parents.
Do you want to ask the other one?
Yeah.
If you were to go back to your childhood, would you go back?
No, not really.
And do you think it was better than it was today?
Well, we grew up during the war, but the times were not very good at that time, so I really don't have a desire to go back to that period of my life.
Alright.
Was there any aspects of your childhood that you miss that you could have today?
I didn't get the question.
Aspects of your life that you miss today? Like things that you used to do, like when you were with your friends, or things that you would do that you miss doing today?
Well, oh yes.
Very good.
Okay, so this is Larry.
Yes.
Neighbor across the street. And I was wondering, what was your childhood like? What was your neighborhood or town like?
I was raised most of the time just south of Tillamook, Oregon, and on a farm. And I started milking cows when I was about 8 years old, and taking care of cows, moving them around, and I also had horses and raised some pigs, and chickens, raised chickens, and I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. And then from there, I gave up. I sold all my animals that I had, and when I got into high school, I started playing football and baseball. I had 3 years playing baseball at varsity. And just one more thing I'll tell you about. I just was clearing my last year of senior high school, and finished that. And I was working in a sawmill through that summer, and then in the end of that summer, I went to South America, Chile, and I spent down there over about a year and a half, and I played rugby with a national team down there, and then it was time to come back, and so I came back, and we started off in Santiago, and we flew back as far as Ecuador, and the plane didn't have one of the engines wasn't working, and those weren't like the planes they have now. These were just regular engines on there. They weren't like the new engines they have now. But anyway, they forced us down, and they took us in, and then they got us back in the plane in about 3 or 4 hours, and we took off, and we headed up, and we got about this angle here, and all of a sudden they just went like this and came right down. I thought it was going to land in a big lake there, and we come back and landed. And in those days, we landed on dirt, and it wasn't a runway. They had to land us on dirt, so we had to spend another day there. I did, and then we got in the plane. They sent another plane to pick us up, to pick the whole plane up, and so we took off from there, and we in those days from South America you had to go into Miami, but you had to stop in it's gosh, it's where where Miami is, right on the big going down. Well, if you go out in the ocean down just a little bit south, there is what's the one that gosh, oh, it's I want to think of, it's kind of like Chile, but it's what's the company down there that in 19 in the late 1960s, they took over the country. Cuba. Yep, they took over. And we landed in there the day they took over. And they escorted us out by guns. And they took us in, and we didn't know if we'd get in or get out. But finally they kept us there, and of course Washington, D.C. got involved because there was a whole load of Americans. And finally they escorted us out and let us go. That was about the end of that.
So you said you lived on a farm. So did you grow most of your food, or did you go out and buy it?
No, we grew most of our feed. We did raise like chickens, and we used them. We raised animals. I mean cows. Not cows, but beef. And we had that. And of course, in those days, was back in the 50s, early 50s, you could raise them, and you had a lot of deer, and so you had a lot of beef. You know, when you're way out like that. If you was in a city, it would be totally different.
So, when you wanted to hang out with your friends, did you have to go pretty far?
Yeah, we were 12 miles from high school, and in those days you didn't do a whole lot of running around. I mean, you had a lot of work. All the young guys I know were all farmers. They were farming right through high school. I mean, they were, and the only time they got off is like if they were playing in a sport, and then you couldn't. You had to. You got to go for the sport, but you had to be home for the. I mean, not that night. The dad or whoever relatives would milk them.
Did your schools have like public transportation, like buses?
Yes, they do.
Did they?
No cost.
No cost?
No cost.
So did your family ever have their own vehicle?
Oh yeah.
Did you ever use it very often, or?
I drove back and forth when I was in my. Well, I did my part of my high school in Santiago, Chile, and so I wasn't ready for. I mean, I wasn't old enough to do it, but back in those days, I ran tractors and I drove my folks' car, and you just never had a problem.
How did you keep your home warm? Like, did you use wood burning stove or something?
We had wood burning. We had a big, you know, like you've got here, a burner, gasoline, or not gasoline, but propane or those, and we would. That's what we used.
Did you guys have electricity?
Yeah.
So you had light bulbs.
Yeah.
What did you use to fuel, like, cooking? How did you cook?
It was all electricity.
All electricity?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever use gas, propane?
No, not in the house.
No coal?
No coal.